Good evening. How are you all? Welcome to the tough episode of Ask Me Anything. We have a lovely group of experts lined up. But firstly, I'd like to apologise about the lighting and the sound. I'm actually in a basement at the moment. We won't talk about that. Let's introduce our fabulous panel of technical experts. First, from Poland, we have Przemysław, PJ. Welcome, PJ.
Hi, Claire.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
How are you? Good to see you.
Little sick,
Okay.
but I will answer your question.
We will explain to our audience that we have quite a sick members of the team. So David is sick, PJ is sick, everybody's sick. So apologies for that. We are going to carry on with the show and with our next technical expert hailing from the USA. It's Micha. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going? Where am I? Where's Mike today? I'm the only one that's not sick. I don't know if I'm in this non-sick club this year or what.
Yeah, no, best place to be in the non-sick club, right?
Sure. I guess so.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. There's a lot of it going around, and of course, if you're public facing, you're going to be in the front of people that have coughs and colds, and if you have children and they're at school, and it's that time of year when the temperature is going to change and it's all a bit crazy. Who else have we got? We also have hailing from the USA, Michaela. You're on mute, Michaela. Yay.
I jumped again.
All right.
Wonderful to see you, Michaela. Your lighting is so much better than mine.
Well, luckily I'm not in a basement. That's good for me. So I was having horrible audio issues in the background while y'all were going. So hey, this is the AMA where we're winging it, guys, and you just need to be super supportive and awesome in the chat today because we are all doing the best we can.
Yes, and we didn't want to cancel this AMA. We do love doing the AMA sessions, and we didn't want to cancel. We thought, no, come on, the show must go on. And even though we have the technical difficulties, the lighting issues, and poor old PJ not being well, and David is in the comments too. And I'm not going on camera, David, because he's really sick too.
I love you all very much, but I am staying here in the background because I am the carrier. Okay, bye now.
Some people pay a lot of money for that voice, David. So we're going to get on with the show. Today is all about the tough. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the TG7. It can be about any tough question. We will fly through the questions. We're going to show you some great images. We're going to have a look at the underwater system and how that looks. And don't forget, although the tough is a very small compact camera, you know, it's actually a system. It has more accessories than an OM1. You know, it has probably 30 or 40 accessories when you look at the expanded diagrams of the underwater and the housings and so on. So, you know, if you're thinking of wanting an underwater camera, you don't want to spend out and buy Nauticam and big underwater cameras and accessories and things like that, this could be the product for you. So we will take a look at some of the questions, and as I said, bear with us because we're all you know, we're all in a big thing. So L and B Schweizmath, apologies if I have said that wrong. And they say, he says, she says, a newbie, finding consistent overexposure in auto mode and scenes, especially landscapes. I see similar feedback online about the TG6. Any way to spot meter whilst using presets? This is a really interesting question because presets are exactly that. You know, in normal light, in normal conditions, your presets are going to work pretty fabulously. But when you start going out of those boundaries and you know, you've got lots of dark foreground and maybe bright sky, there's going to be lots of confusion with metering. And of course, you can't manual meter while you're in a preset because it's in the title, it's a preset. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit more difficult, but we definitely, personally, I would suggest that you head over to aperture priority. You can then set an aperture and you can dial in your overexposure or underexposure, controlling those difficult lighting options when you're in a landscape situation. And I've been there, you know, beautiful bright skies, very dark foregrounds, and of course the metering system just gets really confused. What do you think about that, Mike? Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the same thing. I mean, scene modes are exactly that. Like you said, the camera is in an auto mode and it's going to do everything for you. So you have to take control, unfortunately, with that, and just use spot meter from a, you know, a different mode. You can always do program. I mean, program is 85% of the time it's probably going to capture what you want, especially for like a landscape or something along those lines. And with program, you could definitely do it. So it might not be as exact as a scene mode, but you're still letting the camera do everything. So
yeah. And Michelle, you agree as well, right?
Yeah. So I was going to suggest the same thing as Mike. You know, the automatic modes are really trying not to let you change anything on the camera. It's like a fail safe so that you don't mess up what it wants to do. So I always recommend, you know, if you're feeling comfortable, jump out of auto, put it in P mode, because it's still going to be really automatic, but it's going to allow you to override some of those settings, utilize your spot metering or exposure compensation. If you really want to bring it down more, you're not getting the highlights where you want them. So yeah, I definitely agree. Try a different mode.
Yeah, it's interesting because landscape is probably the most difficult when you're getting to get those really bright areas and really dark areas in one movement, and then you're going to get a shift of light because you could have cloud, you could have sun, and so that could be a changing sky scene all the time. And I would definitely try going into manual mode. What about you, PJ? You feel the same?
Yes, I mostly use aperture mode in TG series because I have control of everything in camera. This is my favorite mode in all camera, in DG6, DG7, or in OM series.
Yeah, I agree. And like Michelle says, those presets there, they are pretty rigid. They're there to help you get along. Maybe you don't know so much about photography and about apertures and shutter speeds, and they're there to sort of help you along. But once you've outgrown those presets, I suppose that's the proper better word for it, or the subject matter is a little bit more out of its range, you're going to have to get in there and be brave. Go into that mode. Be brave.
The other thing you can consider too, though, if you're working on landscapes, because I know what that question was initially based off of landscapes, right? You can try the HDR mode. I found myself, even just this weekend, we were out in Virginia trying to shoot the rolling hills and the lake and the sky, and I was losing the sky or the trees were too dark. I ended up shooting in HDR mode almost the entire time, which is going to give you more of that dynamic range and merge it together so that you get your trees and you get your sky. So if you're not finding the right scene setting, maybe try one of the other scenes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Michelle. You know, with HDR, you get more contrast, you get lighter shadow, you get lighter areas in the shadows, and then you get darker areas in the lighter areas. So again, there's options. There is options. Don't think that, oh no, it's not doing what I'm doing. You just have to get a little bit more savvy with the camera. So we hope that answers your question. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next question. We've got lots of comments coming in. I hope everybody's well. It's been a while since we saw you all. We've all been on annual leave and we've all been all over the place. So hello to everybody out there from across the world. We have a great question from Jerome Maya. Could be pronounced Maya. We're going to say Maya. When will the Camera Raw update be available for TG7? At the current time, I can't use Photoshop or Lightroom to import my raw images. Yeah, this is a Photoshop Adobe thing. We get in line basically with when they do these updates. We do contact them regularly and tell them that the new cameras are out and so on and so on. And it takes a couple of months once cameras launched, but it will happen. It certainly will happen. As I said, it is a bit of a pain at this time that they don't come out automatically when the cameras do. But generally, it's a bit of a catch-up thing, and Adobe are on it and you will be getting that camera raw update very soon. Okay. So yeah,
if I can add something, you can use OM Workspace to convert your raw file to TIFF file and process in Lightroom our TIFF file. I think this is the best solution when you don't have support for raw file in your software.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And it's free. OM Workspace is free. And obviously you would use it to do your sort of OM series camera updates and things like that. And so there is an option. You're not completely left in the dark and then can't do any processing. As PJ says, convert them to TIFF and then put the TIFFs into Photoshop, and then you will be up and running. Okay. Everyone good with that? Cool, cool. We have the next question from Free Information. Hello, is there a tripod available for the TG series? I need one for my long exposure. Well, I have one here. There we go. It's a basic standard tripod mount. I have many little mini tripods. So you just have to find the one for you. I love it for time lapse. When I'm using a time lapse, I want to pop it out and I don't want my big tripods, of which I have many. So a great little travel tripod. There are so many out there. There's the Jobies, the Manfrottos, the Velbons. What have you got there?
That's the little Platypod. Those are really cool.
Ooh, right? Who makes that?
Platypod.
I don't know that brand.
Yeah, I'll have to send that to you. It's very cool.
Oh, is it a US brand?
I believe it may be, yeah. And you can put any head on there. Just set it right on the ground.
Wow, and it just lays flat on the ground.
Yeah.
Wow, I've never seen one of those before.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I
love it. Used that the other night.
I'll have to send you one.
Oh, brilliant. And did you use it the other night, Michelle, you said?
No, I could have used that the other night. I was leaning on a log for my tripod because I didn't bring one with me. But normally I have a bendy leg, the Joby ones, and they're perfect for these because they're so lightweight and they just screw right to the bottom. But you can use any tripod. Yeah. If you've already got a tripod, you can use it.
Yeah. No special tripod required. Just it's a standard tripod bush and it goes in. And all the Tough series have a tripod bush in the bottom of them, so you don't have a problem. I am really interested in that platy job because that looks really cool. Generally you're sort of messing around with the legs and you're trying to get it all even. That looks pretty cool.
Christmas is coming.
Oh, if I get my Secret Santa and I get one of those, I know who it's from.
Yes.
Right.
So we hope that answers your question. And thank you for giving us some questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in. We will aim to answer as many as we can before the end of the show. Okay, we have a next question from Mary Mancini. What a great name. I love that. Can you buy a replacement lens cover for the TG6? I'm going to hand this over to you, Mike.
Yeah, lens cover. Are you talking about the little piece that actually I have one here?
Yeah, it's the LBT01.
The actual cover, right, that comes with it.
Yeah.
You should be able to pick one
that's
of these
the
up.
ring.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's
about the lens that, you know, the actual closing
right, this right here. It would be considered a part, but you also have the adapter you can get. Which allows you to put on accessories, including like a filter. You could do that.
CLA
and the TO1.
01?
TO1. And then there's the clasp that you can they can use. There you go.
There you go, David. Thank you.
And that one is really cool. The LBT01, the lens
barrier.
That's
the one. It's called a lens barrier, I think.
Yeah.
Rather than a lens cap, right?
That's what I would pick up. Yeah, you just put that right on. You can twist it to turn on, twist it to open up. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I shared the link for it in the chat earlier. So if you're watching now and you scroll up a little ways in the live chat, there is a link to the LBT01.
Yeah. And, you know, listen, let's talk about the Tough a minute, because the Tough is exactly that. You know, you can drop it from sort of 2 meters and below. You know, it's a system, as I said before, it's underwater, but, you know, it's not completely scratch free, right? So the one thing you do need to do is keep that lens covered. And actually that lens barrier is a really, really good, because if you're going to use the system and you're taking the lens ring off, putting the lens ring back on, maybe you're changing it for different things, you know, this is still a piece of toughened glass. It's like double glazing in there, so it doesn't fog up when you go from one, you know, from heat to cold and so on. But it's still glass, and like with anything, you wouldn't walk around with an OM completely exposed. You know, you wouldn't walk around with £1,000 lens without a lens cap on it or a filter on it. So the lens barrier, I think, works really well. And although the lens is a little bit recessed with the standard cover, standard adapter on it, you know, I've done it where I've dropped it into water and it's hit a rock and it's marked the lens. So I actually now keep the lens barrier. It's a really good little accessory and just keeps it all nice and clean. And there are many accessories to do that, because when you take this out, you do tend to, I don't want to say abuse the camera, but you treat it a little bit rougher than you would your OM. I don't know if anybody else in the team feels the same. But I don't treat this with kid gloves like my OM1. I tend to sort of throw it around and leave it on the floor and throw it into water. And so, you know, the surface will get a little bit marked. That's the sort of nature of the beast. So we do a silicone jacket, which is really cool. That keeps it nice and scratch free. But what's most important is the lens. There you go. There you go. You got the silicone jacket on.
Yeah.
I love the silicone jacket. It's so uber cool, and you can still get to all the buttons, but it does keep it a bit more, say, scratch free, I suppose is the word. But obviously the most thing you need to make sure you look after is the front element, because that's the most important thing, right? Okay, so Michael Dunn says, I have the TG6 and OM1. Thank you very much. Lovely family you are, Michael. Convince me why I would need this new version. What is the must-have feature? PJ, I'm going to throw this over to you. What do you think is the must-have?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
USB-C.
I was going to say USB-C.
This is the most important thing in this camera. I can take one cable for OM1 and one cable for TG7, the same charger. For me, this is a game changer in this camera. I have owned my private TG6 and I will change for TG7 only for this USB-C. Maybe this is stupid because this camera is good. TG6 is good, but it's simplest in the travel to take one charger and one cable. For me, this is a game changer.
I think standardizing cables is like, you know, it's got to be done. I mean, how many cables do we take away when you're between products? You have a MacBook, you have a PC, you have cameras, you have phones and power banks. You know, I mean, when I was traveling, it got to the point where you know, I'm literally taking like 2 kilos of cables and chargers. And with the cost of airfare and with the cost of, you know, traveling with kits, oh my gosh, the amount of cables plugged into, especially when it's abroad as well, because I have to have so many different adapters to take so many cables. It is an absolute pain. So I really like that, PJ. Is that the same for you, Michelle? You agree?
Yeah, USB-C. I mean, they did add construction mode, but as most of you guys know, I don't do too much construction. I'm generally hanging out with you guys on YouTube. So, but they do have all the construction modes that got added. But I think for me and my photography lifestyle, yes, it's going to be adding a USB-C cord. I mean, like, you know, if you're happy and you have TG6, I'm going to get in so much trouble for saying this. You know, you don't have to always upgrade to the next camera. But if you've got an older model TG and you're finally looking to step up, or you aren't a part of TG at all yet, you know, I mean, this is the newest iteration of it. It's an awesome camera. It's still just as tough and rugged as it was before. It's still ready to go sink at the bottom of a lake. I've done that once. You know, I mean, it's still just an awesome camera. It's just the newest iteration of it. And I think there were improvements that were made, and having one cord with you is fabulous. And I mean, I just love my Tough series cameras because of what they are as a whole. You know, they're tough cameras, and they have this incredible accessory system that allows me to do so much. So it's a great system for what I'm doing.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I mean it's fairly the same, right? So 6 is a wonderful camera, but most of your innards are the same on the camera. I mean,
Right.
there was nothing wrong with the 6. So keep them with the same size and the same weight and all that. You want to have pretty much similarities, but you do have a 7. That's one. No, the grip is definitely a little bit different. I do like the grip on
Yeah.
the new camera. I think
Right.
it's much easier to handle. It gives you a little bit more to handle. USB-C, obviously, but also the new color reproduction on the back screen is nice because,
Right.
you know, whether you're underwater, which I don't do, or above water, it's nice to look at the screen. It looks, even though it's the same screen, it looks much better than the older screen. So it's much more representative of what you're seeing. So that's been a nice upgrade on the camera as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to be really boring and really corporate here. And, you know, it's one of those things where obviously we've branded with OM System. You know, you guys need to know we're not going anywhere. We are in the early phases of rebranding. Rebranding costs millions and takes a lot of time. But, you know, it's about knowing that we're here forever, knowing that we're doing really well. The rebranding is actually happening a lot quicker than we originally thought it was going to happen. And, you know, just to have sort of confidence that we're loving what we did with Olympus, and those amazing products are still going to be the core part of what we do. And yeah, f2 lens. Hello. Super sharp. You were going to say, PJ?
This hand grip is important for divers because in gloves this hand grip is much more better than TG6 in TG7. If you're diving in gloves, yes, it's very important for divers if we don't use underwater cases.
And it's really interesting because PJ is basically we have Wojciech, who is one of our ambassadors in Poland, and his amazing underwater TG shots will just blow your mind. I've never really got to do anything that rather than about sort of 6 feet of water, really. But to be able to do this tropical, you know, the tropical stuff that that Wojciech produces is mind-blowing. And obviously if you've seen any of the launch stuff with TG7, you will see some of the macro stuff that Gerant's shot, that some of our other ambassadors have taken the images. We'll talk about a little bit about that in a minute. I think I'm jumping the gun. Let's do another question.
Yeah.
Derek Mason 6 says, is the socket compartment cover spring-loaded like the TG5? No, I don't think the socket cover is spring-loaded. The SD card that goes inside is spring-loaded, but it's like with all of the TGs, it's got like a double lock. You've got an open and close button, and then you've got a lock, and that basically makes sure that the rubber seals are in. So I can't remember, did the TG5 have a spring-loaded cover?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
isn't it funny?
It was so many years ago.
You know, like one model goes away, it's like, did it have a spring cover?
PJ doesn't have one sitting there with him.
No,
but I
PJ.
I have TG1. Something
all the way to the back.
I don't think it did.
Yeah, I don't remember it being spring-loaded.
But the answer is this doesn't have a spring-loaded cover, but the SD card is spring-loaded. And it does have the double locking mechanism to make sure that there's no water ingress. And you can just tell that when you open it because it's got a huge rubber seal around the battery and SD card cover. And that has, you know, that is incredible, that rubber seal. Whenever I look at it, I'm like, yeah, their water's not getting in there. That's pretty cool. Just as a buy question, did anybody, I'm sure you all did, but did anybody see the papers in the UK where a tough camera had been found in the sea, and it was like 10 years ago or something like that, and then they pulled the camera out, someone found it, and they found the images on their card. The images were still there on their SD card because no water had got inside the camera. And that's like amazing. I think we showed it in our Teams group, and it was in our local UK papers, and that was very exciting. And that's not the first time that's happened. So
we had one in the US.
Oh, you have, right? And the great thing about social media nowadays is you can put those pictures up and then people are like, hey, that's my camera. I love that.
The same history was in Baltic Sea. Very old staff camera with, I think, 5-meter waterproofness was found on 62 meters, I think. And
Whoa.
after 3 years, images are still there on XD card, this old very card.
Yeah, the old XD card. Whoa.
Yes, and also Baltic Sea is very cold sea, and this is not good for this camera, but there is photos still on the card.
Incredible. I love that. Okay. Sorry, I digressed a bit there. David Harrison, hi. Would like to know if it does live comp. Who's done live comp with the TG7? Michaela, have you done some live? Hey, David, thank you.
There we go.
There you go. So live composite. I mean, it's not as fully fledged as the OM1, obviously, because there are differences in how the cameras work, but you can do star trails. You can do fireworks. You can leave the camera shutter. The shutter will be open and it will gather any extra light that first, that the first exposure didn't take. And it's pretty cool. There you go. There you go. Images are taken consecutively, recording only areas with changing brightness. So yes is the answer. And it's in scene mode, where you're going to go to nightscapes and scroll right the way along, and you will find live composite. And there it is. Really easy to find. Thanks, PJ. You star. We're going to take a shot.
I like that PJ can give us a display from his desk.
I love that.
My small backstage.
So live composite in TG is going to work really, really similarly to the EM10 series. Right. So, in OM1 and OM5 and the EM1 series, if you're familiar with those, it was a much more manual process where you needed to kind of choose your settings for this. The EM10 in our TUF series do have live composite, but they're more packaged as like an automatic version. So it's going to kind of pick the background exposure it thinks you want, and then start doing the composite based off of that. And then only seeing that new light that the sensor hasn't previously seen. Yeah. Funny story. I thought I was like, a great photographer. Everybody in the comments can laugh about that, But I took my daughter out to do star trails, and I spent all this time pre-setting up my live composite, and my daughter had an EM10 Mark IV and had the automatic mode, and her star trails turned out way better than mine.
Oops. Is that, Mum? Do you know what you're doing, Mum? Yeah.
No, apparently not. So her photo was way better than mine. So the moral of the story is that, yes, you can do live composite with TG, and it'll turn out better than my live composite with my OM1.
I love that. And I think not just the TG7, but the TUF range is packed with features. I mean, not enough time to go through it in a 2-hour session, let alone a 1-hour session. Let's get on to Gary Zakovich. I please hope I pronounced that. Do you think this is a good choice for intro into macro? Right.
The best.
Who's got some macro pictures they're going to show us? So basically you have 4 macro options, okay? You have microscope mode, you have microscope mode with control, so you can actually zoom in even more. You have focus stacking, and you have focus bracketing. Let me tell you, when you add something like the little LED light, your macro photography, you do not have to be some super know all about your measurements and your magnifications, and you don't need to know that, because let me tell you, it is so easy to use. It's so easy to hold. The product can literally be a millimeter away from your subject. It's unreal. I never forget first trying a TUF when I came to Olympus. Couldn't believe how close I could get. And the only barrier is the bug or the thing going to move because you're so close to it. PJ, let's have a look at some images from you.
Another great thing, Claire, is you have RAW, which when you're doing like macro and stuff, it's nice to have a RAW file.
Yeah,
to work
look at that image that PJ. Awesome. So that's just your keyboard, and that's just on sort of standard mode. I mean, you know, it is incredible. You might want to ask it, as I say, give us a bit more light. But look, you know, that's just text. I mean, you can even see the makeup of the paper, and you can shoot in RAW, as Mike said. So you're in microscope mode. You have the microscope plus you can zoom. I mean, you've got the accessories on top of there, as I've just seen PJ add those in. It is pretty awesome. Have we got any? There we go. Look at those images. Have we got any images that we've shot ourselves? Have we got any ambassador images? I know David might have a couple, but look at that. And that's without any, that's focus stacking, because I showed that you could see the little stack at the top. That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. And handheld, super, super, super close handheld. So there we go. You have microscope control, as PJ is showing now. I mean, we're getting to the point now where that is super, super, super close. How much light you're going to need. I don't know if you've got a light on the front of that.
No, I don't have.
No. So again, if you're hand holding that without a light, hey, thanks, David. So there you go.
Yes.
I mean, look at that. It's absolutely amazing.
I use the LED guide light. It's available on our site that goes with it. If you're using this for macro, that is a must buy. It fits on pretty much all the last series of TG. So even if you have TG5, get the LED light guide. It's a yep, there it is.
There we go. Mike's got it. And I think it's like $20 or something, right?
Well, it depends on where you live. Don't quote that, because every country has a different price.
yeah. But I think in the UK, it's about £20. And it's one of those things where, you know, when you put the light on, it means your ISOs are staying nice and low, right? Because obviously what you don't want is your ISOs to, there we go. Look at that. That's nice. Yeah. Nice shot. You know, that's what you want.
Really even light with that too. Go. Yeah. I love it. It's just over here doing macro experiments. I love it.
I love that.
Yeah, we actually we showcase it all the time with the LED ring light. You can actually focus down to the very front of the glass of your TG. Right. We were showing people, if you zoom all the way in, you can actually see the fibers in your clothing, like the weave of your clothing. That's how intense the microscope mode is, by just setting it on that like microscope dial on the back of your camera. So yes, killer camera for, I love, everybody's doing macro now. Mike's got it.
Let's do it. I'm into this. I am really into this. Come on, Mike. Show me that dollar.
Solo.
Show me the dollar. Look at that. There we go.
Got to take it back like one tiny. Yeah, there we go.
Wow,
so yeah, you can see the fibers.
That is incredible, isn't it? And look at the even light. Don't just look at the focusing, guys. Look at how even the light is across the board. You know, if you use the flash diffuser, there can tend to be a couple of little hot spots. But with the LED diffuser, it's a light that goes all the way around the lens. I mean, look at that. It's unreal, isn't it? Absolutely unreal. Is that a $1 bill or a $5 bill or a $10 bill?
I don't know if I should tell you. That's a $20.
Is that a $100 bill?
It's my haircut.
Mike's rich.
Oh, I love that.
I don't use $1 bills.
So the answer is, if you're trying to get into macro and you're not into getting interchangeable lens cameras, you know, and you maybe don't want to take a tripod, maybe you're the adventurer that's going up the mountain and just wants this in your pocket, you don't want to take extra kit, this is the answer, because it's small and light and does all the things that 99% of the things that an OM can do. But of course, you don't need to be a photographer to work out all that stuff. So yes is the answer. Okay, we're going to go on to the next question. We are already 35 minutes in. Linda Krugman says, for snorkeling, it's a PJ question. For snorkeling with a TG5, is the case required or suggested? Which accessories are recommended? I'm heading to the Galapagos in mid-November. Linda, we're not jealous. We're not jealous. I was going to say if you need anyone to carry your camera kit, but you don't. That's the point with the TG. PJ, over to you.
For snorkeling, sorry. I'm back. Yes.
That's all right.
Sorry. For snorkeling, only camera you need. I think direct from box you can put this to the water and do great pictures. But if you want do whole setup for professional underwater photography, like with strobes or with video lights or with macro accessories, I recommended PT058. I think is for TG5 because this is question about TG5. This is PT058. Sorry.
Yep.
And case will be your door for professional underwater photography because you can put all accessories like strobes and other accessories to your case. But if this is only snorkeling, TG will be enough. I will recommend only some wide angle wide converter, what you can put here, near to the lens. David, can you change?
Yeah. Which what are we looking at? Are we looking at? Yes. There you go. There's the wide converter. And again, same adapter, the CLA01. And the wide angle adapter is perfect for underwater because you get those incredible wide angle shots of coral and fish and all sorts, and that does make a big difference. Obviously you need to change your setup in your menu because there's underwater shooting versus not underwater shooting, so just check your menu. I was going to say, do you know what my favorite accessory is? The floating strap, because the amount of times I've gone off my paddleboard, the camera's gone one way and I've gone the other. Invariably I come up not knowing what I'm doing, and the orange strap is just floating over there. The camera is not on the bottom of the seabed. So if you're going out on the water, as I said, when I'm paddleboarding, the floating strap is my favorite accessory because I've not lost one yet. So yeah, I think that's a really good tip. So if you're snorkeling, you don't need one. Just make sure that your settings are correct in the menus that you're shooting in the underwater versions. But there are so many accessories. As we said, it's a system. So there is something for everyone, depending on what it is, what the genre of photography it is that you're talking about. Thanks, David. The FCON TO1 fisheye converter. That's it. And it really does look great underwater. So that would be the one that you could look at. Obviously, all these accessories are available on OMSYSTEM.com. OMSYSTEM.com. Explore.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm thinking, what's it called again?
You won't get very far without the Explore.
So Michelle, we can drop a link in, or someone can drop a link into the accessories, and then you can at least have a look at them and see what's what. Okay, are you ready for a question, everybody? Let's go with Jackson Moore. Hey Jackson, I shoot with a TG4 and underwater housing today. What are the top 3 or so improvements in the TG7 that will improve my underwater photography? Now, that's interesting because we've jumped 3 cameras there, and that is about 7 or 8 years. So that is firstly processor. The processor will have been updated. So the quality of image, noise, ISO, all that stuff that the processor does is going to be a lot better. So the final image, before we talk about all the other stuff, processor is going to make a massive difference. What do you think, Mike?
You'll have 4K for your video. You'll have better color on the screen. You'll also have 12 meg versus 16 meg. So your low light will be a lot better underwater now because we backed it back down to 12 meg for that reason. Yeah. Those are probably the 3 big things for me. Definitely a little quicker with the processor.
Right.
For underwater, much better is the white balance from TG4 to TG7. From TG6 even to TG7 is big improvement in white balance in underwater mode.
Yeah, I agree. So Jackson, maybe it's time to switch to the TG7 because, as I said, if you're Will the TG4 underwater housing? No. So you will need to get a new underwater housing though, because the housing has changed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth selling that on and re-looking at a new one, but the housings are different and the housings are incredibly beautiful. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but they're manufactured so well. I love them. They're built beautifully, and it's really nice, the housing. So yes, Jackson, you're going to need to change. Well, not need to, but I think you should change. I hope that answers your question. Let's go on over to Donna Kurtz. Hey, Donna, how are you? My TG6 went 7 leagues down. Oh, no. 2 years ago, over the edge of my canoe. Floating strap, Donna. Floating strap. I still have all the accessories, lenses. Will they work on the TG7? Yeah, absolutely. No change there.
Almost.
Only silicone cover.
Yeah, the silicone jacket. I think you can put it on, but it doesn't quite fit.
But I think if you had silicone jacket, it's floating with TG7. So.
Yeah, but again,
true.
You know, I hope you claimed on your insurance, Donna. Floating strap. It's a fail safe because it's bright orange and you can sort of see it sort of drifting off. As I said, when you come out from being underwater and you're all a bit discombobulated, the first thing you do is my camera. So floating strap. We hope that helps, Donna. Let's go on to Cindy's question. Cindy says, hello, Cindy. I just got a TG6 and wanted to know, can you move the focus point around? Mike, you want to take this one?
Yeah, focus point. It's a great question because I don't play with the focus point on these, but yes, you can move it around. And hold on, I'm playing now to tell you how to do it.
PJ's gone black.
I was going to say PJ's about to bring it up.
Jump in, PJ.
There you go.
You need to press OK and wait a second.
No, I was looking for it.
Yes. So the answer is yes, you can move it around. There you go. Get to the main menu.
Sorry. In microscopic mode, you can.
You're in the that's it. So you go into the menu.
Into you can use
it's autofocus area, right?
Yeah. So shooting menu 1, autofocus area, and there. I mean, like with anything, I tend to use this middle section on the TG, to be honest with you. But again, you might want something slightly off center. So you have got that option. Thanks, guys. Well answered. I'm loving the live demos.
I'm still playing.
Those overhead cameras on. It's all cool. So, Cindy, we hope that answered your question. Okay, Sarah Burgess, do I need any accessories to use the camera underwater? Well, as it stands, no. But if you want to explore the accessories, then there's a whole plethora of accessories, as we showed you. There's a whole exploded diagram or a whole section on underwater if you're going to go the pro way. But you can use all the accessories underwater, apart from the remote control. That would be a bit crazy. But actually, this is the sort of the top end if you're going to get quite serious with your underwater photography. But you can use the things like the teleconverters that most people would assume you could only use outside of the, in open air. You can use those underwater as well. And again, worth having a look on the website for this exploded diagram. There's 2, one for the normal accessories and one for the pro, what we call sort of the pro or more pro version of the underwater stuff. But the answer is yes, you can. Depends on how serious you're going, whether you're going to go past the range that the camera does on its own and into deeper depths, or whether you're staying like in sort of certain areas and certain depths. So yes is the answer.
The most important accessories for underwater is strobes, because you can use with TTL. Of course, if you have housing, underwater housing, you can put strobes like UFL 3 with TTL. And underwater wet wide angle ports for 67 screw filter in housing, because this is most popular screw size for all underwater accessories and teleconverter and white converter, etc.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, as always with these AMA sessions, we're here to sort of answer questions. Even though we call it a community event, we don't do lots of hellos, but we say hello to everybody all over the world. And we're going to go on to the next question to Mary Mancini, whose name I still love. Does the CSCH127 silicon jacket fit the TG6? So I think we just answered that. You can't put the you can put the TG7 one on the TG6, but you can't put the TG6 on the, there you go.
This is the TG6 on the TG7. So you can make it work, but it's kind of funky over here by the grip,
right,
because the grip's different. So you're going to have some room here. So you're better off waiting for the new jacket. If you have the old jacket and you purchase a TG7, then you can, kind of play around like I did, and it works okay. But it is a little funky right here. So
and
definitely the new one. Yeah,
it's silicon, so there's going to be a little bit of give, right? A little bit of sort of moving it around and fitting it on, but it's pretty snug, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just got a weird like bubble right here because that grip is different. So the new one will definitely fit a lot more snug and a lot better.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Thank you.
Sure.
Let's go to Cheryl Kingston. How would you do waterfalls? Live composite? I mean, do you want to slow the waterfalls down, or do you just want to take pictures of waterfalls? So I suppose it depends on the question. Mike?
Can add an ND filter. If you put the adapter on, you can put a 40.5 millimeter filter on. So you can always throw an ND filter on, which should slow your shutter speed down automatically. And then you can get that nice kind of milky look with your flowing water. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend a tripod with this type of photography, though, right? Sure. This is probably one of the options where I would recommend a tripod, even though the TG can work quite happily in macro without a tripod. Once you're going into external ND filters, definitely put a tripod on.
Right.
Do you ever show that,
live? Oops, sorry.
Sorry, the TO1 again. It allows you to have that 40.5 millimeter filter thread. So
perfect.
Yeah, somebody put that in the chat. I'm counting on you, David. Put the filter link in the chat in case somebody wants. Yeah, so I've never actually tried live composite with TG specifically for waterfalls, but in theory, if you you'd have to add an ND filter to it. But in theory, it would absolutely work in that same way. Same with like moving clouds or any sort of shutter drag.
Sure.
Because it would affect your shutter speed. I would probably put it at that point in an aperture priority though, so it's forcing that shutter speed to slow down. Yeah, but absolutely could work.
I think my thing I was thinking of with the waterfalls, when you have a massive amount of water on top of each other, the white bits get whiter and whiter and whiter, and there could be like a loss of detail if you're using live composite and not using a filter. So I would say no. I think it might be okay for like half a second or a really short amount of time, but the longer you go with live composite, the whiter those watery bits will get, and then you'll lose detail. And it will just be like a white splash. So it could be done for a small amount of time, but not for a long amount of time. And go to the other options if your exposures are going to be a bit longer. You agree with that, PJ, too?
Yes.
Good stuff. Let's get on to the next question.
Sick PJ is like, yes. Let's go.
Yes. Confirm. Yes. Okay, we have a few more questions. Sherry Norrie. Okay, wondering why Olympus OM system can't keep the same underwater housing for all the TG camera. I have an underwater housing for my TG3. The housing won't fit my TG5. This is progression, my lovely. I'm sorry that they don't fit. What happens is when the cameras get better and R&D improve the design and R&D improve where button placement is, this is what happens. It is a little bit of a pain, but actually that's just the way when we move on with the tech, some of those accessories have to fit. For instance, we're not making an underwater housing for the OM1 anymore. We're letting Nauticam do that. So when things change and and things move along. It is a bit of the nature of the beast, unfortunately, and yeah, a little bit of
and screen sizes have changed through the years. The screens used to be smaller. The grips have moved positions. Buttons change, and as things move around,
a dial on the back.
Dial.
Right. The housings are an exact fit to push the buttons exactly where they are.
Right.
So, you know, a camera 3 series ago versus the current one is not going to necessarily have everything laid out in the exact same way. Right. Sometimes it does. I mean, sometimes they'll last 2 cameras. Like this underwater housing for TG7 also fits TG6. Sometimes it works out in that way.
Yeah.
Last one also. TG5 is the same like TG4.
But also, I would add that underwater, specifically, the genre of underwater is so, what's the word? The engineering that goes into keeping those products without water ingress is huge. And when you design a camera that maybe the operationality of it is better for the user, you want a housing that fits. You want a housing that's going to do the job, and they do get designed, you know, to make sure that happens, to make sure that the camera stays in peak condition and you get the shots you want. So we hope that answers your question, Sherry. So let's go on to Harms. Is the light guide for the TG6 the same as the one for the TG7, or does the charging change make a difference?
Nope. The charging doesn't affect it at all. That's just how your camera charges. Same light guide.
Yay!
And that'll fit your TG5 and your TG4 too. So sometimes the accessories work out, guys.
Right.
We keep some stuff the same. Bear with us.
Yeah, I mean, and again, if you're going to use the LED light a lot, I would also suggest you invest in a second battery. I mean, it doesn't drain the battery, but obviously you are taking power from the camera. So a spare battery in your pocket is always worth it if the LED one is your product of choice. Okay, Donna says, does the TG7 use the same batteries as the TG6?
From TG1 is the same battery.
Right, from TG1, right? So TG1 that's 7 versions of the camera where we haven't changed the battery.
Yeah, take that, Canon.
Same size, but not the same battery. I think this was LE90B, and now we have LE92B, but the same size is
right. Good. So yeah, Mike, you were going to say something then, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I was going to say same battery.
Hey, same battery.
I wasn't disparaging.
Good stuff. Okay, we have only 6 more minutes left of this. Really flown by this episode, and it's, you know, I'm loving it because the tough range really is a really fun camera to use. James Meeks, is the lack of a viewfinder a problem when shooting outdoors, as in screen reflections and brightness? I mean, there's always those options, but you know, there's lots of ways you can get a film that goes across the back of the screen, which is an anti-reflective thing. The reason there isn't a viewfinder is down to things like depth and pressure. When you have a viewfinder, they can make the difference to how deep the camera goes, and the camera goes much deeper than the TG5. Was it the 5 when we changed the depth of, or was it the 4? But we changed, and those external things like viewfinders can change how the IP rating is on the camera and in R&D and things like that. So it is actually and also because it's tough, if you drop it and the viewfinder breaks, which because it's a piece of plasticky glass thing, then again, that's not going to be tough. So there's a few reasons for it, mainly design, for it to enable it to be tough. That's why it doesn't have a viewfinder. But the screen, as Mike said, has been improved. The colors on the screen are the reproduction on the colors on the screen, much better in the TG7 as well. So, you know, there are ways around it, James, but there's also a reason why there isn't a viewfinder in there. Okay. Anybody got anything else to say about viewfinders, or we all good?
Just you won't be able to use your polarized sunglasses. because it is an LCD. I learned that.
I love that.
That is such a weird phenomenon.
Like, you can look cool as while you're taking.
I know.
Cool
I'm like,
pictures.
where's my picture? Oh yeah.
Okay. Sarah says, I'm picking up, Sarah Burgess. Hi, Sarah. I'm picking up my TG7 later today. I'm also interested in the OM1. Are the controls of each similar to each other? So the menu layout is different, but the idea behind the features like live composite, focus stacking, focus bracketing are the same, right? They are laid out in a slightly different way. But once, depending on what you're going to get into first, you know, I'd get really excited by the macro first, because that will take you down roads that you'll be like, what? So it depends, Sarah, but theoretically the features are the same. As I said, they work in a similar fashion. So the answer is yes, about 70%. The menu is slightly different to the OM1. It's like the previous menu, but you'll pick it up easy enough. It's very, very easy to operate the TG7. So I hope that answers your question. We're going to go for the last question before we say our goodbyes, and everybody can go back to their sick beds and put Vic all over themselves, take their cough mixture and their paracetamol. Other brands are available. Linda says, can the TG Ring Flash go underwater? Who's going to answer this? I'm going to say PJ.
Yes, of course. You can take LED one and LG one underwater. It's no problem with that, because there is no electronics. This is only diffuser of your lights built in camera.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's really important to know that the accessories go underwater, the converters, the lamps, the flash covers, you know, that's what it's built for. It is a system designed to be used underwater. So there are some incredible videos out there and some credible ambassadors. As I said, WashTech is amazing. His stuff is brilliant. If you follow him on Instagram, again, we'll pop his Insta in the feed afterwards. I've really enjoyed tonight's session. It's been amazing. Thank you, guys. Thanks everybody for joining us. Our time. Oh, there are a few more questions, but we're going to go in and we're going to answer those, I think, a bit later, aren't we? Because there are lots of questions, but one of us, if not all of us, will go in and we'll, over the next few days, we'll add those questions in. I want to say big thank you to PJ for coming, because you've been sick, and thank you so much for joining us. David, I know you're in the background, and I'm loving the husky voice, you know.
I love you all very, very much.
Thanks for joining us, David, and appreciate your help. Michaela, as always, gorgeous and amazing. Thank you. And the wonderful Mike, too. Thank you all so much. But mainly thank you to you, the viewers, for joining us on these incredible sessions. We really do enjoy doing them. And we will see you next month for our next MA. We look forward to it. And Greg says he figured out the TIFF conversion. Woohoo! So wonderful. Lovely to see you all again. And we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.